Welcome back to the Deep Dive, a low effort podcast. Today we're going to be reviewing Grosse Pointe Blank by George Armitage, starring John Cusack, Minnie Driver, and Dan Aykroyd.
All right. Ever feel like your 10-year reunion is going to involve a little more action than catching up over lukewarm canapes?
Well, that's Martin Blank's life for you in Grosse Pointe Blank.
You asked for a deep dive into what makes this dark comedy a cult classic, so buckle up.
And we've got some fascinating insights from film analyses and even scene breakdowns.
We'll unpack why this movie about a hitman going back to his high school reunion still resonates decades later.
Because let's be real.
It's so much more than just a John Cusack flick with a killer soundtrack, right?
Absolutely. It's this incredible blend of dark humor, relatable anxieties about going home again, and then, bam, existential crises about life choices, all set to the tunes of 80s classics.
And speaking of the soundtrack, I have to bring it up. The Clash, Violent Femmes, Echo, and the Bunnymen. It's practically a who's who of alternative gold.
But it's not just there for nostalgia's sake, is it?
Not at all.
It has this whole other layer to the storytelling.
For example,
When Martin returns to Grosse Pointe, Guns N' Roses' Live and Let Die kicks in.
talk about on the nose.
Right. Super on the nose, but it works.
Makes you wonder if Martin's even got a choice in how his life plays out.
Right. Like fate, or maybe his past is calling the shots. And it's not just that one song music underscores the tension throughout the film. Think about that prom scene.
Oh man, with Under Pressure playing in the background, the weight of all those unsaid things between Martin and Debbie, pure genius.
Exactly. It elevates a high school reunion to something much more. You've got this awkward, hopeful nostalgia clashing with Martin's current reality as a hitman, and it's all amplified by the music.
Speaking of Debbie, Minnie Driver is just brilliant. She's sharp. She sees through Martin's, let's say, unique profession. But there's still this undeniable spark between them.
Their dialogue is fantastic.
Yeah.
Fast-paced, witty, packed with pop culture references that show how connected they are, despite everything.
Okay, but how often in a rom-com does the guy drop the I'm a hitman bomb? That scene where he confesses, it's played for laughs, but it's also a huge turning point. It's like he's laying it all out there, risking it all for a shot at something real.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
can you ever truly outrun your past?
That's the central question of the film, isn't it? And it's visually reinforced by the stark contrast between L.A. and Grosse Pointe.
Totally.
L.A., with its cool blues and grays, represents this detached, almost sterile existence for Martin.
It's all sleek surfaces, just like the life he's built for himself.
Right.
But then you've got Grosse Pointe, warmer, inviting in a way, but
But with this undercurrent of something suffocating.
yeah.
Those reunion scenes, the way the camera closes in on Martin, it's almost claustrophobic.
And what about that recurring motif of reflections?
Oh, yeah.
Martin keeps catching glimpses of himself in windows, mirrors.
It's visual shorthand for his fractured sense of self. Like he's trying to piece together who he is amongst all these ghosts of his past.
And speaking of ghosts, that convenience store where his childhood home used to be.
Right.
It's brightly lit, almost sterile looking, not exactly the warm glow of childhood memories.
No, not at all. It represents that sense of loss, of things you can never truly go back to,
Right.
no matter how much you might want to.
Which makes you think about Martin's profession. The film doesn't shy away from the violence, but it's also not gratuitous. It's like there's this underlying sadness to it.
Exactly. Take the sound design, for example.
Okay.
Gunshots are sharp, realistic, jarring.
Yeah.
It's not glamorized Hollywood action. You're forced to confront the weight of his actions.
And yet the film manages to find humor in the darkest of places.
Oh, totally.
That scene in the convenience store with Martin using a price gun as a weapon.
It's a classic Grosse Pointe Blank. You're laughing,
Right.
but there's this underlying tension, this reminder that actions have consequences,
Right.
even when they're played for laughs.
Which brings us back to Martin and Debbie. Their relationship is funny, it's heartwarming, but there's always this sense that his past might catch up to them. It's like he's trying to navigate a minefield, you know, of regret and hope, but with a wry smile and a pistol tucked away just in case.
Right, exactly.
Which now that I say it out loud is probably why this movie works so well.
Yeah, totally.
So we've got hitmen, high school angst, a killer soundtrack. What's the takeaway? What makes Grosse Pointe Blank more than just a quirky action comedy?
I think it's about looking back at who we were and who we become. you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like Martin's journey back to Grosse Pointe, it forces him to confront the choices he's made,
Right.
both personally and professionally.
Mm-hmm.
And it asks us, the viewers, to do the same.
It makes you wonder, what would you do if you could go back to your high school reunion? Would you face your past head on like Martin?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's that relatable fear and longing for closure that makes Grosse Pointe Blank so timeless.
And funny.
Oh, yeah.
And the soundtrack is just chef's kiss.
Oh, it's so good. Plus, the sheer absurdity of it all. It's a film that stays with you.
It's the kind of movie you can revisit over and over again and still find something new to appreciate. A true cult classic, just as you requested.
There you go.
So if you're looking for a film that's both entertaining and thought-provoking, look no further than Grosse Pointe Blank.
Absolutely.
And hey, if it makes you want to dig out your old yearbook and reflect on your own journey, well, that's just a bonus.